Hi folks, this is Ben from carrypad.com, and I've got these two tablets here, the Galaxy tab on the left and the NSPIRT Identity tab on the right, and I wanted to do a comparison between the two. So first I'm going to run around the hardware of the devices, starting with the Galaxy tab. On the left side here, all we have is a microphone. On the top, 3.5mm headphone jack. On the right side there is a hold-in power button, volume rocker, and a microSD hatch here for access to a memory card, and on the bottom we have two speakers and a proprietary connector, which is a pain because most things these days are using micro USB, and so if you have those cords around, you're not going to be able to use them to charge this. Also, while the end of this connector is USB, it doesn't tend to charge on a lot of standard USB ports, not in any of the ones that I've tried it on anyway, so you always have to end up plugging it into the actual wall adapter. And on the front of the device here, we've got a 1024 by 600 screen, which is quite high resolution. There is also a 1.3 megapixel front-facing camera here at the top, and on the back, a 3.2 megapixel camera and a single LED flash right there. So now let's have a look at the NSPIRT Identity tab. Again, this is a 7-inch screen, just like the Galaxy tab, very similar in its footprint, except this is an 800 by 480 resolution. And we'll run around the device again. On the left side we have a microphone. On the top, 3.5mm headphone jack, and a hold and power button here on the right, and there's actually a hatch that we can go into with a couple of ports in it. So instead of a micro USB, this has a full-size USB slot, which is great for anybody who has a camera that uses full-size USB and needs to be able to do quick viewing or editing, and a mini HDMI out, which is handy. And once we close that, on the right side we've got a volume rocker and nothing else. On the bottom, this is a mini USB charger, so this will not work with the majority of today's phone chargers. This is sort of an older one, and that's somewhat of a pain. Also on the front of the device, if I forgot to mention, there's a 1.3 megapixel camera up here. It's at the top when you're holding it in landscape mode, and on the back, 3.2 megapixel camera, just like the Galaxy tab, except there's no flash. And also on the front, I wanted to point out that the Galaxy tab has 4 capacitive Android buttons that you know of, and these will light up. So you've got your menu, home, back, and search. The the Identity tab actually only has 3, but there are physical buttons, not capacitive buttons, which I do like, but they don't light up and they're hard to see in the dark. So on the left side, you've just got menu. This is the home button and the back button, so it's missing the search key, which a lot of people won't miss, but I do from time to time in certain applications. So now that we've gone through the hardware, I'm going to show you all about the software here. So both of these devices are running Android 2.2, and they have official Google Market access, and just in case you don't believe me on that, I will show you. So both these devices are legitimate Google Market accessible, and I wanted to show you a little bit about what the screen resolution means for the Galaxy tab. So this is really running, the Identity tab here on the right is running vanilla Android 2.2 experience, while Samsung on the Galaxy tab here on the left has done a lot of work to bring this up to more of a tablet-like experience, even though it's running the phone version of Android. So this can only fit, the Identity tab can only fit 1, 2, 3, 4 by 1, 2, 3, 4 icons on its home screen grid, while the Galaxy tab can actually do 5 by 5, which is handy. And you can actually just see the size difference between them. There's a lot more that you can fit on the screen. And Samsung has handily included landscape support for the home screen, which reorganizes your icons in real time, which is useful. The Identity tab here, as I mentioned, running vanilla Android 2.2, doesn't have any support for landscape on the home screen. So let's jump into a couple benchmarks. The first thing I'm going to do is make sure that I clear all the RAM from both these devices so that we have an even playing field. So we should be good to go. I should mention both of these devices are running a 1 GHz processor with PowerVR, I believe SGX 540 graphics, 512 megabytes of RAM on both. Well, Samsung reports theirs is 592 megabytes of RAM, while the Enspert Identity Tab is 512. So I've got a couple tests I'm going to run here. The first thing we're going to do is the Quadrant Professional benchmark, and I'm going to let you guys actually watch this. Whoops, started a second early. Let you guys watch this so that you can, once it gets to the graphic portion, you can actually see if there's any difference between the two. So the Identity Tab just finished up and the Galaxy Tab is still running. Okay, both devices have finished now, and we'll have a look at the score. So the Galaxy Tab on the left here scored 976, while the Enspert scored a pretty impressive 1446. That puts it at the top of the chart on the devices that this particular benchmark has listed, while the Galaxy Tab on this list is down here. So let's look at the major differences. The big thing that I'm seeing at first is the fact that this green bar, which represents I/O or data write speeds, is significantly larger than the Galaxy Tab. If we look at the numbers, the Identity Tab scored a 3022 on I/O, and the Galaxy Tab only a 669. So it's over 3 times faster in I/O than the Galaxy Tab, and that's obviously a major bottleneck for the Galaxy Tab over here. I'm not sure if that is a software or a hardware thing, but presumably that should be that may have something to do with the file system and the way that some of the customizations that Samsung has done with the device, because these are very similar platforms, very similar hardware. It may also, I guess, have something to do with the larger screen, but that seems a little bit less likely. Let's see, CPU, the Galaxy Tab did beat out the Identity Tab. CPU score for the Galaxy Tab was 1500, while CPU score for the Identity Tab was 1269. Not that major of a difference, but it certainly would appear, according to this test, that the Identity Tab is outperforming the Galaxy Tab, but that doesn't always mean that it's going to feel that way in real terms, in real-world usage. So let's take a look at some of that. I've already taken the liberty of clearing all of the caches from the browser, and I'm going to once again clear out the RAM and any processes running so that we have a clear footing here. And now we're going to do a couple website load tests. So first we'll fire up CarryPad. These are both running on Wi-Fi. And that actually hit the mobile site on this one, so we'll see what the Galaxy Tab does. Galaxy Tab went straight to the full site, so hopefully that won't happen on our other tests. I have a few more lined up. So here's Pocketables. The Identity tab seems to be hanging on something on the site right now, while the Galaxy tab is almost done. Have to give that another try. Let's go with Engadget this time. Hopefully they will both go to the same place and not hang on something. Okay, here we go. So they're both rendering at a pretty regular rate. We'll see how well they scroll. So the Identity tab is done. The Galaxy tab is still loading a couple elements, but they were both usable. The sites were both usable by the at a pretty similar time. So I'm going to give you a little idea of the flash performance from Flash 10.1. Let's see, I've got a flash benchmark here, which is just going to run a little applet, and we'll be able to look at the frame rate between the two. So the Galaxy tab is running, it was jumping a second ago, it's running about 25-26 frames per second, while the Identity tab is pretty consistently 28-29, except for the occasional stutters. They both stutter and drop a few frames. So yeah, Galaxy tab around 25-26, Identity tab 28-29. Really not a major difference, probably not even noticeable if you were running two flash videos next to each other. So that is the Galaxy tab and the NSPERT Identity tab. These are both 7-inch tablets with access to Google Android Marketplace, and presumably if you can't get a Wi-Fi only Galaxy tab or are looking for a cheaper price on the for a 7-inch tablet that has Google Market Access, these are definitely contemporaries and possibly alternatives to another depending upon your particular needs and usage. So I hope you guys have found this video useful, and thanks for checking us out at carrypad.com.